Okay, everybody, this might sound a little bit off topic, but just run with me here. I think it would be exceedingly awesome if George Clooney just disappeared for 6 months, came back super just ripped out of his entire mind, looking like he could tear up an entire gym. However, he can only do this if he keeps the beard/hair situation that he had in this movie. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but anytime I see a dude with almost no hair and a giant beard, it's pretty intimidating. For like no apparent reason. And I would like nothing more than to see George Clooney as a villain in a Fast and Furious movie looking like that. Cause, I mean, come on. Like, come on. Right? Whatever. Cue the music. Hey, what's up guys? How's it going? How y'all doing today? Welcome back. And today we're talking about The Midnight Sky. And despite how interested I generally tend to be when I hear that George Clooney is gonna direct a movie, I kind of think he maybe should have passed on this one. Either that or maybe the studio should have interfered a little bit more with the editing, because the story was a little bit too all over the place. And as far as the plot goes, the film takes place in the semi-distant future, and it centers around George Clooney as the main character, and he plays a scientist that's kind of stationed in this kind of Arctic Circle kind of laboratory area. And in the very beginning, you see that everybody is getting evacuated because there's an apocalyptic event that's occurring, and it involves basically the entire Earth just being overrun with radiation. And meanwhile, there's a simultaneous storyline where a ship is coming back to Earth because they went to investigate a planet that could be possibly habitable. And on top of both of those things, back where George Clooney is stationed, one of the, family members gets left behind, so he has to figure out how to deal with that. So there's all that stuff going on. Oh, and there's one other thing I forgot. George Clooney's character also has a terminal illness, because how many more plots can we put in here, people? And therein, that's my exact problem with the movie, is that it kind of tried to do a little bit too much, and it didn't really have like a specific focus that it was trying to go with. And I don't know for certain, but if I were to guess, I would say it's probably because this movie is based on a book, and I'm assuming that Clooney or the writer or somebody tried to stay a little bit too close to the book, and then that didn't adapt as well as it possibly could have. Which is why, I've said this multiple times, they call it a film adaptation and not a film reenactment, because then you get movies like this that are not as perfect as they possibly could be in the medium of film. And that's not to say that this movie is automatically awful, just, for that specific reason, but the movie did try to put like 5 movies all wrapped into one, so it could have cut out maybe 2 or 3 of those things, and it would have been a much more successful thing. For example, there's a slight subplot involving some of the animals around that, Arctic winter area that, it didn't really amount to anything. It started off being something important, but by the end of the movie, I was questioning why that whole subplot was introduced even at all in the first place, because it kind of derailed all the momentum of the rest of the story. Some of the more notable positives, I have to say, were the majority of the acting performances. I thought they were pretty good for the most part. And I could also say the same thing about maybe 1 to 2/3 of the music was actually really, really, really impactful, and I really felt the gravity of what was being played in reference to what was being seen on screen as well. But then that leads me to a negative about the music, which also bleeds into the tone. I'll talk about that in a second though. The movie also has a notable use of flashbacks, and they tried to use, they didn't use de-aging technology in regards to George Clooney's face, but they definitely tried to keep his voice, but then dub it into a different actor. And I actually thought they did a pretty good job with that, considering all the things that were hindering the ability to do that. So from a technical aspect, I think the movie does deserve at least a little bit of recognition, because if you watch a Marvel movie I think they did it in Ant-Man. If you watch the beginning of Ant-Man, Michael Douglas actually has green things on his face so that they can CGI a more youthful look into him later in post-production. But Michael Douglas was still the actual actor in that scene, so that's just the route that they chose to go. And this movie, they chose to get a different actor, but they just gave him a different voice and made him kind of look like Clooney a tiny bit. So they tried to do something different. I give him a little credit, you know what I'm saying? And another thing that I liked was the way the movie started and the way the movie ended. I liked the start of the movie because they did a lot of really good subtle character development for George Clooney's character. And I liked the ending of the movie because it rounded off some of the subplots and kind of justified them being in the movie. But it's like I said before, some of those subplots were just not worth it at all. If it was me personally, if I was in charge of everything, I would have probably scrapped like 3/4 of the entire storyline of the ship that's coming back to Earth. And instead, I would have just focused on George Clooney and the little girl that he's kind of left with, because that's like one good narrative through line. And then at the end of the movie, then he should have been able to like make contact with that ship, and then like that should have been the thing. But that's just kind of not, that's not the direction they decided to go with. And I know I gave the movie credit for trying something new as far as like the vocal de-aging, I guess you could call it, but it was very, very obvious that they were trying to get George Clooney's character to say as little as humanly possible, so they would have to do as little production as possible, and it kind of showed, so it didn't totally work. It was a good idea though. And the last thing I'll say is I thought the movie was tonally a little weird, and that was partially because of the returning spaceship from Earth. That it kind of threw off the whole idea that I had going into the first 20 minutes of the movie. Because the whole first 20 minutes, you're just getting to know George Clooney's character, and then, you know, he gets this little girl kind of thrown at him. It turns into this kind of Logan in the Arctic Circle kind of movie, and I was on board, you know what I mean? But with this other spaceship coming to Earth, it's like there's a whole new set of characters with a whole other set of dynamics and a whole other like thing to focus on that takes away from the main story. I don't know, it just felt off, and I couldn't get into it in that respect. And aside from that, there's also a quote-unquote character building moment between Clooney and the little girl that he kind of gets stuck with. Because the movie seems very dour and very depressing from the beginning, and out of nowhere, it just seemingly, the entire tone of the movie shifted for like 3 minutes between Clooney and the little girl. And it didn't really, like, I understood the purpose for the scene being in the movie, but the whole vibe of the movie just abruptly changed just for this one tiny little moment, and the music went along with it. And the music did that a couple times, and I was just kind of like, really? Is that what we're doing? But anyway, guys, at the end of the day, it wasn't a horrible movie. It had a few good redeemable qualities to it, but it ended up being this kind of disjointed mess, and I can't say I really, really want to watch it ever again. So unfortunately, I think I'm gonna go slightly negative. I think for a score overall out of 10, I think I'm gonna give it like a 4.8. So despite the fact that I didn't quite give the movie a positive review, it's not all bad, and it's worth a watch, but it's like I said, it's like there's too much going on, it's too much of a mess, and it's just kind of like, half of the story is just kind of flutter in the wind. I still have faith in George Clooney though, so hopefully he just picks a better project next time. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Have you guys seen this movie? Have you heard of it? Hop in the comments. Let me know what's up. Other than that, if you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, do all the other typical YouTube shenanigans. And I will catch you guys next time. Yeah, that's good.